What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm talking all about video. I have my MacBook here. We're going to go through and edit a video together in Final Cut and just show you the basics. So what I produce is a little bit more complicated than what we're going to go over today, because basically I've just had more practice and I've been able to refine my skills a little bit. But today's video is just really giving you the basic rundown, how to use Final Cut, how to add music, and just cutting everything together to give you a really basic start. So this is going to allow you to sell to your couples like a 3 to 4 minute highlight film, something really nice, really basic, with less pressure on yourselves. We're not going to go over audio or anything like that because that's going to be for another video. So let's talk about the equipment I used on this video. So I'm using a 2017 MacBook Pro to edit it. The cameras I was using on the day were Sony A7IIIs and a Sony A7R III, just with the lenses I already have, mostly a 24, 55 and 85. And I was mostly recording in 50p, a little bit 100p with the sunset shoot, but we probably won't get into that at this video. But with any camera, you're really going to want to be able to make sure you can record slow motion in full HD at least. So for this video I was shooting everything in full HD, like I said, mostly in 50p or 100p. If you want to do 4K, that's totally up to you, but you really need to have a camera that can handle it. You need to have a computer that can handle the editing process, and you obviously need a lot more storage. So with all that said, let's just jump into my computer and start editing a movie. Alright, so we're here on my desktop, and one of the first things I wanted to touch on was just about importing and all that kind of stuff. So I've already imported everything here, but it's a really basic process. If you look over here in the side, this is your library. I've just named it Alana and Corey YouTube because that was their names, and I'm making this video for you guys. So this here is your library. If you go to File, New, Library, that creates your library, which is basically like a Lightroom catalog. And then here you have Smart Collections. You can see here I have these, so if you just click the arrow down, what this is just picking up keywords from your folder structure. So when I'm importing all my footage into Finder, I organize it like this with different folders. This one here was just my Ninja recorder. I only have a few clips in there left because I've deleted those static clips. And then Cam A was the main camera I was using. I haven't renamed them or anything like that. And then I do have a separate folder with audio in it, which I recorded from the ceremony and the speeches. But we're not going to use any of that footage today. I'll get into that in another video. If you want to see how I record audio, I have a video, so I'll put a link up here and you can check that out for yourself. So like I said, have everything organized into folders, just like Cam A, Cam B, or your camera and your second shooter's camera. And I would really highly advise syncing your times beforehand, because it's really difficult if your cameras are way out of whack time-wise. So jumping back into Final Cut, to import all your footage, you're just going to go up here, File, Import, and then click Media. And then this box comes up. So from here, you just want to find the folder. I've got it all here, and then you can highlight everything you want to bring in. So I would just be clicking these, and then over here you want to leave your files in place unless you're importing it directly from an SD card, and then you're going to have to click copy to library, and that's going to take everything off. But in this situation, and what I would advise you guys to do, is have everything in Finder all ready to go, organized, and it just makes it much more simple. So we're going to leave files in place, and that's going to not do double ups or anything like that. And then just make sure keywords are ticked with Finder tags or from folders. We're not going to worry about creating optimized media or proxy media. This is just something you can use if your computer's really slow and it's struggling to deal with the footage. Final Cut can make optimized footage. It'll just kind of duplicate it and create low res versions or something like that to make it speed up your computer a little bit. So because we've already imported everything, I'm going to exit out of that. So that's everything there. When you're clicking on the clips, you can see it's bringing them all up here. And if you just hover over with your mouse, you can see you can kind of scrub through it and have a look at all the footage you've created. This window here is obviously your main viewer. And then down here is where your project's going to be. And this window here is where all your effects are going to be and everything like that. So I haven't created a project yet, so let's start off with that. So let's come down here and click New Project, or you can go up to File, New Project. It's going to bring this window up, and then you can set all your custom settings that you want to create your video with. So in my case, I shot it all in 1080, so we're going to use 1080p. If you were to do it in 4K, you can do that, and then your frame rates are over here. So before, when I mentioned we were shooting it all in slow motion in 50p or 100p or whatever you're using, I'm going to export the file at 25p. You can do 24 or 23.98, it doesn't really matter. It's all personal preference. A lot of people prefer 30p as well, but in this case we're going to do 25 just to get that kind of, I don't know if you don't want to call it cinematic look, because I wasn't using ND filters to get motion blur or anything like that. So let's just go with 25p, click OK, and then that will give us our main timeline here. Now before we bring anything down into our timeline, we're going to go through the viewer here and tag sections of each clip that we want to bring into it. So we're going to kind of just have a look and favorite everything we want to put into the video. So the best way we do that is to just use these yellow boxes here. This is selecting a portion of the time. So if I go down to another one here, which I haven't selected, you can see I was just using my prism over on the left here. I'm not going to use this clip because I don't really like the effect in this situation. Or you can press spacebar to start playing it and stop it. And then all you do is find the end point where you want the clip to start, and you can press I. Now that just, like I said, adds your end point, and then you can just go forward or go to the start again, play it, find the amount of track time that you want, and then press O for out point. Now once you've selected the area of the clip you want to do, you can just go ahead on your keyboard and press F. That puts a green bar up here, and that means that section of clip is favorited. Now you can do that for multiple sections of a single clip, so I can choose this one here. I'm just clicking and dragging and then press F again, and then it's got two different favorites. So to speed up the process, I've already gone through and favorited everything that we want to use. So I haven't used a lot of clips, you know, like this is just everything that I've chosen to put in there. So this is another one. Now the reason we do that is you can go up here and then click favorites. Now what that's going to do is just show us everything that we've selected from each clip and nothing else. So everything, it's basically like culling your photos in Lightroom. So now that we've selected all the bits of the clips that we want to use, we're going to bring it down into our timeline. Now for this demonstration, we're just going to start with a chronological ordered film. So everything is just going to be in chronological order. If you want to mix it up a little bit, we'll get into that in another video, maybe a little bit later on in this one. But we're just going to keep it simple and stick with a time ordered, really basic timeline here. So because of that, we can go down, click the first one here, and then go all the way down to the bottom, hold shift, click, and that selected everything that we've culled from the footage we've taken. And I'm just going to click the first one here and just simply drag it down into the timeline. Now what that's done is put everything that I've culled into the timeline like that, and you can see I have 8 minutes and 21 seconds of footage. So it's definitely too much. We're going to have to cull it down because of the song we've chosen. Now music is the next thing I'm going to touch on, because you want to do it right, and music is probably the main thing that sets the mood for the whole entire video. So if you have a really slow romantic song, the video is going to feel like that. If you have a more upbeat song, it's going to feel like that. To find music, I would recommend getting a subscription to like MusicBed or Epidemic Sound. I have a paid subscription to Epidemic Sound, and that means you can download stuff and you're not going to get any copyright strikes if you or your clients upload it to Facebook or YouTube or anything like that. So I haven't imported the music into Final Cut, so let's do that now. I'm going to hit Command I. That'll bring up our window, and then we can click the music track here, leave files in place again, import selected, and then it's brought it into our timeline here. So we'll just drag it down to the main clip. So now we have our music into the timeline. We can go ahead and just start cutting everything up really quickly. Now one thing I want to touch on, I did customize my keys, so you can go up here to preference commands, click customize, and then you can program all your keys to different functions. Now I've programmed mine so A, S, and D are the main keys I'm using. A cuts a clip, so if I just hover over one here, that cuts it just from one press. S selects a clip, and D deletes it. So it's a really, really basic process, and it really speeds things up. So we can cut to the timing of the music and all that kind of stuff easier. So from here, like I said, let's just start playing it and cutting it up. So I just paused that on the music beat here, so we can just press A to cut that. Move across to the right with the right arrow, press S to select, and then D to delete, and that's going to remove the rest of that clip out of it. Let's play that again. So you can see what's happening there. We're just kind of changing up the clip to match the songs. So I'm going to go through really quickly and start editing and just taking all the stuff out and timing it to the music. So you can see there it's a really quick process. ASD, arrow, delete. Everything's done. So you can see again as I go, I'm just timing it to the music, dropping it on a beat, and then dropping it on a beat. I don't know what that even means. Basically, when a beat comes along or a drum sound or a different kind of lyric or something like that, I'm pausing the video. You can also use the arrow keys to go through and just find out where that beat drop is and cut to the exact time. So when you're going through again, let's just play that quickly. You can see everything's going to be timed to a certain beat, and it's just going to create a little bit more of a pleasing flow to the video. One thing I wanted to touch on with music, if you're not going to have audio over it like the vowels or some of the speeches or something like that, I find it really important to have a song that has lyrics in it, because it can get a little bit boring watching an entire movie without any kind of speaking or lyrics or anything like that. So music choice is really important when you're creating a movie for your couples. Let's carry on with the cut. So you can see here in this case the music track that was picking up in the microphone from the actual day was picking up other music, and it's definitely too loud and definitely distracting. So what we can do here is just pinch to zoom into the track to make it a little bit easier. And then you see this line here, this is your volume. So we can click that and drag it down, and that's just going to make that a lot quieter. So if we play that again, now if I undo that, you can see it's way too distracting. So again, it depends. A lot of people will go through and mute the entire track. I tend to like having a little bit of background, but you have to watch what people are saying and all that as well. So let's carry on. So that's getting a little bit distracting as well, so let's drop those volumes down. And see here, I have kind of 3 clips from the same thing because I wasn't sure exactly which one I wanted to use. So I think we'll go with this one. So let's select these. We can multi-select by clicking and dragging and pressing the D key. And that deletes them off. I think from here what we'll do as well is just mute all of this audio to make it a little bit cleaner. So what I've done is selected all of that. Then you can go up here to the inspector tab, click volume, and then just click here and go minus 100 dB or whatever you want it to be. So now it's all muted, all of that audio. So with that done, we can jump back in and start cutting it up again.
Breakfast, fresh on the stove. She walked out with the floral blouse.
So you can tell from this part so far, I haven't slow-moed anything in the clip. It's all just real time. It's not too shaky, but if we want to slow it all down, that's quite easy to do. So to slow down the clips, we're going to select all of them here and then come up to this little tab and click slow. And now because I've filmed them in 50p, we're going to choose 50%. And that's going to allow us to slow it down without getting any choppiness. So if you were shooting 100p, for example, you could go down to 25% and it would be really slow. So let's see how that looks. So you can see it's much smoother. Again, just using my prism over the top. Another thing I wanted to show you guys really quickly is the built-in stabilization that Final Cut has. So if we click this clip here, go over to the inspector window, just click the movie tab up here, and then click stabilization, and that's going to do its thing in the background. It shouldn't take long, and that'll stabilize the clip. You need to remember it will crop in a little bit, and sometimes it doesn't really work. You'll get some weird kind of warping going on, but in this case I think it's going to work fine. So let's have a look at that again. So much smoother than it was before. This one, will slow this down as well. So I don't want this video to drag on for ages, so let's jump in, color grade it, and then we'll go through the export process to show you how that works. So let's go back over to this first clip here. If we press Command 5, that's going to bring out the effects window. I'm not using any plugins in this scenario because I really want it to be straight out of the box how you would buy Final Cut without any added extra bits. So let's go down to color, choose custom LUT here, and we're just going to click that and drag it onto our first clip. Now it hasn't changed anything because we need to add a LUT to it. So we need to add our LUT into Final Cut. So what we're going to do is go over to custom LUT, press this box here, and then choose custom LUT. From there we can go onto the desktop where I have my LUT downloaded. These are cube files when you download them. Some of them are named differently, but most of them are going to be cube files, and then click open. And you can see that's just dragged it onto our file there. If we turn that on and off, it's a really basic correction, but it just adds a little bit of flair and gives it a little bit of a filmy look. So now that we've added the custom LUT to this clip, we can press Command C to copy, and then we're going to Shift Z, shows you the entire clip here, and then select everything except the first one and press Shift Command V. Now that brings up the paste attribute, so you're not just Command V because that'll add that clip back in. So Shift Command V, and then we can choose custom LUT and paste that on to the rest of our clips. And if we go through it, you can see that's been added on there. So let's have a quick look at that. Now depending on how your LUT looks, you may want to change it or personalize it to yourself. So if we go over to the inspector tab here and click this button here, that brings up our control wheels, or you can use curves or anything you like. So let's go ahead and add a custom curve to it. So if we just add a S curve, it's just like Lightroom, it's just going to add a little bit of contrast. So that's a little bit too much there. And we can turn that on and off again to see the effect. So it really comes down to however you want the footage to look and adding your personal taste onto it. So let's just assume you've made everything fit your timeline. Now we're going to go ahead and show you the export process. So we're going to come over to this Share tab here, click Export File, and then that brings up your window here. We're going to go across to Settings. We don't want to export in Apple ProRes because it's just far too large of a file. So for this demonstration, we're going to go with H.264, which is just a kind of standard format that most people use, and it brings our file size down to about 488 megabytes. Then we'll go ahead and click Next, name the file, and then we'll go ahead and click Save. Now you can see here, if you click this button here, it's going to show our background tasks, and it's sharing the file, so you can see how long it's going to take. It's a lot faster on my iMac Pro, but with the MacBook Pro you can see we're already at 10%, so it shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes. So once that's done, I'll come back and we'll talk about the end result.
Woke up from a whisper, colored shirt down by my feet. Stood on crowded bathroom row. Voices filled the rooms upstairs. Our Ford was warm before we drove.
So there you have it, guys. We have our file. This was just a really basic start, just so you can start getting into this process and just start editing really basic films. So I would really recommend going along to your next wedding and not even offering this to your couple. Don't even tell them you're doing it. Just set your camera into slow-mo, so 50p or 100p like we talked about, depending on what brand you're using, and then just take a whole bunch of clips, cut them together like this, and see what you can come up with. You need to really experiment before you go offering it and charging people money for this thing. You need to really get some practice. So that's our start. I hope that helps you guys out. I really appreciate you all following along, giving me support along this channel. So we'll see you in the next video in a few days.